It's so encouraging that Jesus doesn't leave us with 7 woes, 7 judgments, front stage characterized by self-worship, backstage, death, we're just dead in our souls, uh, self-indulgent greed, just this terrible picture we failed to enter in. He actually gives us a picture of what soul care could look like. And so the cure is here in these last verses 37 through 39. And I want to just go here and talk about it. So we've looked at the diagnosis of the front stage, the cause, which we've said is a failure to enter in. So self-worship, failure to enter in, and then self-indulgence and death on the backstage is where that eventually leads us. And now we come to the cure. We come to the cure in these verses where Jesus steps back and he speaks this word to Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. Essentially, Jesus is saying, you've refused my care. Now, one of the things that we've said all along in our study on soul care is that the challenge is that we have to learn to live by grace. We learn for God to give us rest. We learn that by grace, God brings transformation. So we gave these definitions early on, right? Rest is this rhythm of life in which God replenishes me. Transformation or growth is a process or a plan in which God transforms me. And that both of these, rest and growth, are a part of soul care, are a part of what it is to be healthy. But both have right tucked in the middle this idea that God does it. God, I'm living by grace. God gives me rest. God grows me. Well, Jesus is saying, hey, I wanted to care for you. That's the desire of my heart, Jerusalem. And then he says this. This is a very, very interesting. If you and I can get this, it's fascinating. But in verse 38, he says, see, your house is left to you desolate, empty, lifeless, dead. For I tell you, verse 39, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Now that phrase is interesting. There's a little bit of a debate over exactly how to interpret that. And it's clearly what happens on Palm Sunday. It's a direct quote of what is said to Jesus as he enters into Jerusalem. So a week before Resurrection Sunday, before Easter Sunday, they are saying, this phrase to Jesus. And some people would say it's actually a reference to the second coming, when everyone will acknowledge that Jesus is Lord, and it will be an act of judgment. And I think if at the very least it's both, but it's a direct quote of what happens on Palm Sunday. And I think that the best interpretation is to see it as Palm Sunday as kind of a prophetic foreshadowing of what will happen at the end. And you say, okay, Brian, why does it matter? It matters. Listen to this. This is important. On Palm Sunday, they acknowledge that Jesus is Lord. They appear to be worshiping him, but they actually are wanting Jesus to bring them the restoration of their own kingdom. They've envisioned this greatness for Israel politically, nationally, in the military, conquering Rome, being free, and they're hailing Jesus as the one who can bring that. They want their kingdom. And in essence, Jesus is saying, listen, you get one of two versions of me. You get the version of Palm Sunday, where you want to use me to build your kingdom, and that will lead to judgment, the second coming. Or you get the Jesus of Good Friday and Easter, where you receive atonement for your sin. You receive my care for your soul. You receive my kingdom, my lordship, all that comes with that, all the incredible grace and mercy and blessing and joy, peace and love that we have in the kingdom of God. And that's the invitation for you. And if you look back now at this passage, right? Will I choose my kingdom, front stage, self-worship, or will I choose life on the backstage? And that could look a lot of different ways on the front stage. And Jesus is appealing to you for that authentic response. Now let's give some summary statements as we finish up. Just a few summary statements. First, backstage death often indicates an unhealthy front stage. So when you're like in an unhealthy way, constantly depressed, discouraged, want to give up, in despair, when you're experiencing real battles with self-indulgence and you've lost self-control, greed, your soul is dead, right? That could very well be an indication that you've been looking for life on the front stage rather than entering in yourself. Backstage death often indicates an unhealthy front stage. Secondly, you will be tempted to disguise, to dress up your backstage death. If you're struggling, if you're experiencing addiction and real unhealthy, dark emotions and mental health issues, you'll be tempted to hide it because you're seeking validation on the front stage. Okay? I'm speaking in the context of the passage and how Jesus lays it out. Thirdly, Jesus has better for you. Jesus wants to bring something to you so much better. And you say, okay, yes, I want to respond to that. This little prompt, right? Enter in. You begin by entering in. Start with yourself. Start with just confession, seeking renewal, entering in, surrender to the Lord, saying, all right, I'm giving you my front stage. I'm giving you my backstage. Come in, make everything new. And I just invite you to take a minute. Don't rush past this. Take a minute and reflect. Pray about entering in. Jesus teaches that life's not ultimately found on the front stage, but in the hidden spaces behind the curtain. How would you like to respond to that invitation from Jesus? To come into the backstage and to receive his care. Ask the Spirit of God, what are some next steps that I might take? And remember that Jesus protects you, he cares for you, and he invites you to enter into his kingdom, his grace. Pray about that, and then take a few minutes and record what the Lord's saying and what some next steps might be. God bless you.